Howdy, fellow vine trippers. I wanted to take just a moment before the show starts to let you know about a great website called Texas Wine Lover. They can be found at txwinelover.com. And they have a comprehensive website that can become your go-to site for information on Texas wines, winemakers, and the wineries that can be found in this state. They even have a phone app that you can download, and that will help you plan your route to create your own wine trip. So make sure and check them out at txwinelover.com. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best that Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow vine tripper. Welcome to episode 12 for Texas Under Vine. For this episode, I'm still exploring the hill country, but I ventured a bit more north to the town of Burnet to check out a winery called Perissos Vineyards. So this vineyard is nestled in an area called Hoover Valley. It's just south of Inks Lake State Park, just outside of Burnet. And there at the vineyard, they have about 49 acres, with about 18 acres actually under vine. And as an artisanal winemaker, they do everything by hand, including harvesting without machinery, everything done by hand. And this particular vineyard is owned by Seth and Laura Martin. Seth was previously a custom home builder, and you can see the fruits of his labor and his work in this beautiful tasting room build. It is just full of beautiful architecture and seeing all the small little details and the pieces that go into making that beautiful tasting room. They're adamant about producing 100% Texas wine, and most of their wine comes actually from their estate vineyard. They only source about 20 to 30% or so from areas like the High Plains in Texas. But again, it's still all Texas wine, but they're very proud of that estate planting they have and what they're able to pull from their own vineyard. Their tasting menu changes every 4 to 6 weeks, so you get a great variety of different wines every time you go. You can call ahead of time if you'd like to see what they're currently tasting. They even have flexibility on their weekends to possibly even open a bottle of something that isn't on their tasting menu for you to try if you want to request that. Their private tastings that they do and tours are dedicated to just the estate wine, so you get a feel for the wine grown and made right on their site. Their resident wine expert, Greg Waldron, leads those tours, and you will definitely learn a lot about the location's history and the history of the wine made right there on their site. When I visited, I actually got to sit down and spend some time with Greg, so let's hear directly from him a little bit about Perissos. I am here with Greg Waldron at Perissos Vineyard and Winery out here in Burnet. And so I just thought I'd ask you a few questions to kind of get to know this place just a little bit. First one is pretty simple. I want to know a little bit about yourself. What got you started into the wine industry?
I am a lifelong wino. And my journey with wine started probably 50 years ago. I'm 107 years old. This is my second career. I'm a recovering corporate executive and management consultant. I was born in San Antonio. When I was 3 years old, my parents relocated with me to a foreign country, New York. So I had to learn a new language, a new culture, and started out on a international business career. And in the 1970s, I worked for a guy who was a wine buff, and we both worked for an airline. We were in New York. We had the opportunity for $8 a pop to take flights to San Francisco on the weekends. We were both unmarried at the time, and go up to the Napa and Sonoma Valleys and taste wine. So at the age of 23, I transitioned from Boone's Farm to Joseph Heights, Martha's Vineyard, Cabernet Sauvignon. And it was a new experience for me. Long story short, I spent an international business career traveling Europe, South America, Australia, New Zealand. Guess what? Big wine regions. And my business philosophy was I wanted to learn the culture of the place first through the food and wine of the area, and came back to the United States toward retirement. My wife and I were living in Sonoma County, California, in Santa Rosa, of all places, in the middle of the wine world. And my thought always was that I would, once I hung up my spurs, go across the street to one of the many, many wineries that were very close. After Sonoma, we moved up to Oregon wine country in the Willamette Valley near Portland, Oregon. Same dream, but then family brought us back to Texas. And I thought, there goes my wine dream, gone forever. The only thing they raise in Texas are steers. And we happened to live first in Burnet, which is very close to Perissos. And about a week and a half after moving here, I was out running around in the car, reconnoitering the place. And my dear California wine snob wife was putting the house in order. And I happened to drive down into Hoover's Valley because I was reconnoitering Inks Lake State Park, which is just north of our winery here. And I got a sense of deja vu coming down into Hoover's Valley here. It looked to me for all the world like northern Sonoma County, Dry Creek Valley in California. It really looked more like Northern California than Texas. And I was musing about that when I drove by Perissos, and when I took a look at Perissos, I nearly drove off the road. Here was a big vineyard. I mean, a really big vineyard with a winery in the middle of it, which is very unusual for the United States. It's actually more like a European model. And I drove in. I tasted the wines. They were a revelation. I didn't know what to expect from Texas wines. My expectations were highly exceeded. I joined the wine club, bought 6 bottles of wine, couldn't wait to get on the phone to my dear wife to tell her, honey, you won't believe it. Texas really makes some good wine, and I've just joined a wine club, and this winery is about 20 miles from where we live, and I've got 6 bottles of this wine. She thought I'd been out in the sun too long. Well, long story short, I'm now sort of the resident wine expert here. I've gone through my Court of Master Sommelier trainings, and my wife loves Perissos wine, and we drink as much Texas wine as we drink California or European wine. So that's my story. The journey to Perissos was serendipitous. It was very lucky. I feel blessed. Perissos is a very special place. We can talk more about it.
Well, and that leads me to the next question. Tell me a little bit about this location's history, how it got started, and how many acres do you have under vine, and tell me about the location.
The total acreage here is 49 acres. Of that, we currently have 18 and a half acres under vine. It took Seth and Laura Martin, the owners of Perissos, several years, probably better than 4 or 5 years, to find this place. Seth was a very successful custom home builder in Austin. He became bitten by the wine bug, like many of us were. And Seth became convinced and, in fact, obsessed with the idea of growing fine wine grapes and making fine wine in Texas. And when he started this dream journey over 20 years ago, his friends told him he was certifiably insane, but he persevered, and it took him quite a while. But he found this place, and this place outside Burnet is special. It's special for a growing reason, and that is we are the only vineyard in the state of Texas planted on this type of soil. We are planted on decomposed granite gravel soil, And if you know a bit about viticulture, growing grapes, you know that is a good soil type for wine vines. It offers deep root penetration, great drainage, because here in Texas, we tend to get 3 months worth of rain in 3 hours. And if it has no place to go, sandy clay loam soil is what most of Texas has above a layer of solid granite and limestone caliche. You get good root penetration and drainage here, and also this area was pasture land. It had never been previously cultivated. There was very little soil nutrient in the soil. That sounds counterintuitive unless you're a wine grower, and that's really good because as an agronomist, you want to compost your way to an optimal soil pH and nutrient balance, and that's what Seth found. So we have that here, and we currently grow 7 varieties of grape. They're all Mediterranean varieties that are suited better to our very, very southern climate here in Texas.
What about the history of the name of the vineyard? Where did Perissos come from?
Perissos is a biblical reference. It is from Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, the letters to Ephesus, and it means abundantly exceeding anything that can be wished for, hoped for, or imagined. The Martins are devoutly Christian people. They live their Christianity, and they feel very, very blessed, and they want to share those blessings with the world, and that is sort of the driving force of Perissos. Seth and Laura will tell you that over the 18 years that they've been here, they've made many, many errors, like most of us humans do, but the good Lord has always been there to catch them from falling. So their abundance is the Lord's gift.
And it sounds like that name was definitely serendipitous to your experience of finding this place, exceedingly above your expectations of what you were.
Completely. I had no idea what to imagine when I walked into this place. I thought it was going to be jalapeno flavored wine. I thought it was going to be beer flavored wine. Lord knows what I was expecting in Texas. But it absolutely blew me away because it was legitimate fine wine. And it was made in a unique style. I would describe it as a unique style. I've drunk wine from all over the world, and I think Texas is really coming into its own, has come into its own, because it has found itself. We make fine Texas wine. We're not trying to be something that we're not, and that's a big deal. We're not California. We're not France. We're not Italy. We're Texas. We're different, but we can do it very, very well within the confines and with the opportunities that our terroir, our climate, our soil, our farming style allows us to exhibit.
Do you source your grapes all from this location, or do you buy some from other locations in Texas, or where do you typically source your grapes?
We are 100% Texas in our sourcing of grapes. The 2 bywords at Perissos are true to Texas and farming first. 2 very important things. Between 70 and 80% of our fruit is grown right here on this 18 and a half planted acres. The other 20 to 30% is from, you guessed it, the high plains in and around the Lubbock area. What does that give us? That you don't get in the hill country AVA, another 2,100 feet of elevation. Elevation gives you what we call in wine farming diurnality, cooler evenings. And there are certain varieties of grape that like a cooler evening in order to ripen properly. So your challenge in our climate, as a lot of people know, is maintaining the acidity of our fruit while it ripens. We can get fruit, we can get sugar, we can get alcohol. Can we maintain acidity? That's an issue. So for varietals like Cabernet Sauvignon, Dolcetto, Montepulciano, Mourvedre, these are grapes that are comfortable with a cooler evening. And Seth actually did an empirical experiment with this place. He was still building homes, and he first planted 26 rows, 2 rows apiece of 13 different varietals that he had researched. And he gave it 3.5 years and farmed all of these vines to full maturity, and he made wine from the mature fruit. From that experience, he chose his 6 initial varieties of grape to work with. And he realized those other varieties would be better, frankly, in a mesoclimate that offered a cooler evening.
Well, do you process all those grapes here on site?
100%. We are vertically integrated now. We're sitting in what was the original winery. We have a large building here, beautifully designed and built. You can tell that Seth was a custom home builder because he designed and built these buildings. The original area of the building that we're sitting in the middle of, it's a barrel room and a tasting room right now, was the original winery. And above it is still today a 2,500 square foot apartment that the Martins actually lived in and raised 5 children in. Because when you're a winemaker, Mother Nature calls, and if you have to start your secondary fermentation at 3 a.m. on a Thursday morning, you're going to be there to do it. So we have a tasting room here, but about 5 years ago, we built a separate building which sits right next door. That's a 12,000 square foot dedicated winery. We have all of the state-of-the-art technology that Napa, Sonoma, Rioja, Bordeaux, Bourgogne, all of those great places, Chianti have, and all of our winemaking is done right here. And we have our own bottling line. So we are indeed fully integrated. We can take it from the vine to the table.
Gotcha. Yeah. Farmers don't have typical office hours, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. Mother Nature defines our life.
What are your favorite wines that y'all make here at Perissos?
I am, first of all, a lover of big reds. So I like wine I can chew on. I also like lighter, brighter, crisper white wines when I drink white wines. So I'll start with a white. My favorite white wine here is Picpoul Blanc. People who aren't familiar with it, I tell them it's very much like a Sauvignon Blanc. But it is a grape that will grow in Texas, and Sauv Blanc really gets pushed hard to ripen properly in Texas. So our Picpoul is one of our most popular white wines, and it's certainly my favorite white wine. Red wines. I have a couple of favorites. I suppose one favorite is a favorite because of historical reason. Back in the 1970s, when I was discovering California wine, it was an exciting time in California. California was being put on the map because of the Judgment of Paris in 1976. For the first time, a couple of California wines, a Chateau Montelena, Chardonnay, and a Stag's Leap Cabernet Sauvignon, won line tasting in Paris against their French counterparts. Suicide watches were out all over France for a year after that, but it really put California on the map. Fast forward to 2014, when I was discovering Perissos, and something similar was happening in Texas at the time, and that was, obviously by 2014, California had clearly taken its place alongside France and Italy and Spain and Australia as one of the premier wine-producing areas in the world. The Chronicle competition in San Francisco had become the biggest U.S. wine competition. Every great name in California, Washington, and Oregon competed. And in 2014, for the first time, a Texas wine and a Texas winery won a best of class at the Chronicle competition, beating all of the California and Northwest competition. Best of class, as you probably know, is above double gold. There's only one given out for each category of wine. And the vineyard was Perissos, and the wine was our Alianico, a 2012. So in the history of Texas wine, I think that's a significant achievement and a significant Texas wine. So I love our Alianico. It's very, very special. Another really favorite wine of mine is our Petit Syrah. It's special because it is a wine that is really hard to harness. It is a notoriously thick-skinned grape, which means big color, big tannins, big flavor. Because of that, it's used most typically as a blending variety. We make a standalone varietal Petite Syrah that is extremely smooth and drinkable, but gives you all of that deep, lush, rich, plummy black fruit and blue fruit signature of a Petite Syrah.
From the customer's perspective, what are the ones that are customer favorites? What are the wines that are hard to keep stock?
In the whites, I would say that our Vineyard, as well as our Picpoul, are really, really popular. Vineyard being a little bit softer and rounder. For people familiar with it, it's an aromatic wine from the south of France, from the Rhone Valley, northern Rhone Valley, the Conroux area initially, and we grow it right here. So it is an estate wine, and we've become kind of famous for it. In the red wines, our red blends have been very, very successful with people. So we have something called, funny name, but serious wine, Italian Stallion. And it is a blend of our Aglianico along with Montepulciano, Dolcetto, and Sangiovese, 25% apiece. Beautiful pizza, hamburger, barbecue, red meat wine. We have another very interesting blend called Racker's Blend, which is essentially our vineyard blend of every red wine variety that we grow here. So it's Aglianico, Tempranillo, Malbec, Syrah, and Petite Syrah. And we allow Mother Nature to be the winemaker. So the actual blend is determined by the harvest yield by relative tonnage of each variety of grape. So Racker's Blend will be different every single year, but it's been a perennial favorite. I think a third one I would mention, maybe third and fourth, Petite Syrah is very popular. I would also add Tempranillo. Tempranillo is a big crowd favorite here, more of a medium-bodied wine, but a wine that really defines the terroir of Texas.
What other types of attractions do you provide here at the vineyard? Do you do events? Do y'all bring in groups? Tell me a little bit about that.
We welcome groups. We have family events, weddings, engagement parties, wedding dinners. We are enthusiastic about in asking or encouraging our wine club members to use Perissos, to use this venue. We're sitting here and you can tell it's really a beautiful place. It's an incredibly beautiful place. And we have a lot of outside seating, and in Texas, they're probably maybe 10 months of the year when you can sit outside and really enjoy a glass or two of wine right in our vineyard here, which is a unique experience that not that many wineries anywhere can give you. We do wine club pickup parties with food. We have entertainment here for the pickup parties. We have entertainment here at the winery every weekend. We do pairing dinners and tasting dinners. We're looking to expand some offerings that I'm going to be involved with, which are going to be smaller groups. We're going to do wine education. So I'm going to be, watch this space, because this coming year, we're going to be doing some announcements about doing a little mini tour of Italy, or a mini tour of France, or a mini tour of Spain, and comparing some of our wines with their European counterparts. So we feel we've been blessed with this location, and we want people to enjoy it with us. Already, you can do a full tour here. I can take you on a tour through the vineyard, through the winery. You can do tank tastings as well as bottle tastings here. So there's a lot to offer.
Tell me about your wine club. So what are the benefits of that? What are the details on it?
We have two levels. We have an enthusiast and we have a legacy wine club. Legacy wine club is the one that we've had for a long, long time. You get into the club not by paying anything, but by buying 6 bottles of wine. And then you are in the club. You are eligible for 25% reduction on all of our wines. You get 4 free tastings. every time you come to the winery, and we're open on every day that ends with a Y. So that is a very popular benefit. And our wine club members, because of that, really like to use the winery as a location that they can entertain their friends. Very, very popular. We allow people to bring their own food. We serve some pairing plates, but other than that, bring your own food. Bring anything you like, and feel welcome here to enjoy it with your friends. In return for being increasingly able to enjoy all of our releases, and we have to say that we're very democratic historically at Perissos. We want to make our wines available to everyone, but we have to try to succeed despite our success. We've become popular. We sell out very, very quickly. So as a wine club member, you're going to begin to see more of the advantage of being able to get some of our varieties and our vintages. So we like to give our wine club members first dibs on that. So what are you signing up for? You're signing up for 4 shipments of 3 bottles of wine. And we ship our wines in February, May, October, and December. Rather typical for the business, particularly in a very warm climate. So we avoid the hot summer months. And if you want to customize your order, you can do that. Our other entry-level wine club is the Enthusiast. You buy 4 bottles and you get 3 shipments of 2 bottles apiece in March, October, and December. And you get a 15% reduction on all your wine purchases and 2 free tastings every time you show up.
So let's move into, let's say a listener wanted to come in and check this place out and maybe do a tasting. Can you tell me a little bit about your tastings? How do those work? What are the fees involved? Is it a set flight of wines? Does the customer pick the wines? What does that look like if a customer wanted to come in and do a tasting?
We set up a flight. We typically like to rotate our flights through as many of our wines as possible so that we can get people fully, over time, conversant with all of our wines. A tasting of 6 wines will cost you $24, and that gives you all 6 wines. And we'll typically do a white, a rosé, and 4 reds. And we'll start you out with a medium-bodied red and then end up with a blockbuster red. We change the tasting menu every 4 to 6 weeks. So if you'd like to know what is on the tasting menu, you can certainly check in with us, call into the winery ahead of time. We'd be more than happy to let you know what we're serving. And if you're interested in tasting something else that isn't on the tasting menu, we're more than happy to open other bottles for you, particularly during the weekends when we know we can taste the wine out, to be as flexible as possible. So if you're really, really interested in trying a Perissos Tempranillo and it isn't on the tasting menu, we'll bend over backwards to get you that experience with a Tempranillo, as an example.
Are reservations needed, or do you do walk-ins?
Walk-ins for tasting. The other wine experience that I mentioned is the tour, and that is $40, and you're going to get a separately set up and curated tasting of 6 of our wines, and I do the curation of the tasting menu, and I'm going to make it all estate wines because I want the tour experience to be everything about our location because it's so important. So you'll get 6 estate wines, and we'll talk about the history of Perissos. We'll talk about what makes us a little bit different. We'll talk about the history of Texas wine and why it's such an exciting time to be a part of the Texas wine experience. We'll go through the winery. We'll talk about winemaking. And I also do a little bit of wine appreciation. And you listen to my blather for an hour and a half or 2 hours for $40.
And can they make that reservation on your website?
Call in or website, either way.
And then if somebody wanted to come visit and they have kids, are you family friendly? Can they bring kids? What about pets, things like that?
We love dogs. We love pets. We ask that we keep the doggies outside so that they play well together outside. We have a really great area here outside. We are kid-friendly. We have juice packets for the kids, sodas for the kids. It really is a family place. So inevitably, you would come in here and you would see families with children.
And then food options that you mentioned a while ago, some food pairings and things like that. You have food options that people can purchase while they're here. Or can they bring their own food in, or how does that work?
Yep. Bring your own food. We do have pairing slates that are small tastes that go well with our wines. So that's going to be charcuterie, cheeses, and some dried fruit. And that's what we have to offer. We are resisting the idea of trying to get into the restaurant business, but watch our website or call in. We do have food trucks here from time to time. And as I mentioned before, yes, for our wine club members, we do have pairing dinners, definitely into that. I'm not only a wine guy, but I'm a chef. So I love the idea of getting people to appreciate what food and wine can be together, as well as wine just by itself.
So many people, I think, find their aha moment with wine with a food, I find. Isn't it amazing how food can affect the tasting of things? So
a great story that I like to tell is we are a dry wine merchant. So we do not specialize typically in sweet or off-dry wines. We do have a port style fortified dessert wine, not currently available, but it's a very good port, and we're readying our next vintage. But we do have one off-dry wine that is a blend of Roussanne, and we've used different grapes, but Malvasia Bianca is what we're using because it's a good Texas grape, and it is off dry. It is noticeably somewhat sweet. It does have some residual sugar, and for our wine aficionados on staff, and I won't drop any names, but one of our people who is a real expert in wine, who is on the winemaking staff, said, I make that stuff, but I would never drink it. I really don't like that off-dry wine. And I said, have you ever tried it with spicy food? And he said, what are you talking about? And it just so happened that the weekend we were having this conversation, we had one of our great food trucks, and it was a Jamaican jerk chef and his staff, and they had jerk shrimp and jerk chicken. And I brought the guy in a plate of jerk chicken and had him try it's called Serendipity with it. And the guy's eyes were saucers. He said, this is perfect. This wine tastes so wonderful with this food. I could eat and drink this all day. I said, aha, that is a pairing moment. And those of us who know wine know that off-dry wines work really well with spicy food. So you like your spicy food, a good off-dry Riesling or something like it is really going to be opening your eyes, even if you wouldn't necessarily reach for that off-dry wine as your first choice.
what varietals are you using for your port?
Port is actually all of our red varietals. Our port is our way of trying to work in a port style. But as you probably know, the Portuguese will not completely vent their base wine. So they interrupt the fermentation. So it is kind of heavy with the residual sugar. We use a fully vented wine, and we use our Racker's blend. So it's primarily Aglianico, Tempranillo with some Syrah, Petit Syrah, and Malbec. So how do we get that residual sugar back in there? We use concentrated grape juice from our own varieties, and we put that back in so that we can crank up that sugar in the blend, and then we find the finest brandy that we can find and fortify it, and it goes back in the barrel for 3 to 4 years. And that is Port Tejas. Get it? Port plus Texas. So Port Tejas, for obvious copyright reasons, it cannot be called port, but it is a port-style wine.
So group sizes, do you have any maximum group sizes? If somebody wanted to bring in a bus or something, pull in your parking lot or things like that, what do you try to keep things to?
If your group is going to be more than, say, 8 to 10 people, it's going to work best for you as well as for us if you just call us ahead of time, because we want to make sure that you're going to have a great experience. And we can make sure that you have a great experience if you don't show up with 30 people and say, hi, we're here. And we'll do our darndest to make sure you have a great experience, but we can give you an even better result if we have a little bit of advance notice. So if you can call us, it doesn't have to be weeks in advance, but give us a couple of days notice and we will make sure your experience is a great one.
What about busy or slow seasons? What's the best time to visit?
Anytime. I would say if you're not really comfortable in the Texas heat, maybe the middle of summer might not be the best time to visit. I love the Texas heat. And the thing that I really like about giving people tours in the middle of the Texas heat is that's right before harvest. As you probably know, in the Hill Country AVA, even though we hang our fruit a long time, we're harvesting anywhere from the end of July to the end of August. And I get a real kick out of being able to take people out to the vineyard, not for a long time in 100-degree heat, but I'm walking them out there with a glass of Tempranillo, the Syrah or Petit Syrah, and I'm taking them to the vine and picking off some ripe Syrah, Petit Syrah, or Tempranillo berries and having them try that grape right before harvest and talking about the physiology of the grapes and having them actively compare that fruit experience with what they're getting in their wine. So that's really cool. In the fall or in the late summer, it's really great because that's when we're at our busiest in winemaking. Obviously, it's right after the harvest, so we're in the crush, we're in the press, we're in the fermentation, and you get to see that. In the spring, absolutely beautiful greenery coming out in the vines as they sap up in March and early April. Winter, quiet but beautiful fall colors. There isn't a bad season here. Just pick what kind of experience you want.
So do you do any kind of distribution? If somebody can't come here for whatever reason, can they experience your wines anywhere else, or do they have to come here?
We ship it off we sell it off our website. I can't tell you how many states we can't ship to. That changes all the time. That's out of our control, but there are many, many states that we can ship to. And we have a national wine club. So while most of our wine club members are in Texas, they're from all over Texas and they're from all over the United States. And I've got to put a little plug in here. I love it when I sign up a Californian for a Texas wine club.
Do you have any plans for future growth?
Yes and no. I think the best way of answering that question is that Perissos is going to continue to grow and evolve. We're one of those fortunate places that has been successful. We really don't want to lose those things that have allowed us to get where we are. We will never, ever get into mass-produced wines. We're an artisanal winemaker. Everything is handcrafted here. Everything we do in the field is by hand. So we don't have machines. So our volumes are relatively low. We're always looking for opportunities to enhance the brand. Could that mean doing more volume, using more High Plains fruit, because High Plains fruit is of extremely high quality now? That could be a yes. We don't have a specific plan for that. We have recently introduced for a wine club another label, which is a special label of very limited release types of wine that we are able to make now because of who we are. And for instance, we are now making a GSM, but we made a very, very small amount of it. Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, Chateauneuf du Pape, varietal mix or blend, and that's part of this label. So it's an example of some of the things that we're doing to kind of broaden our horizons, but I don't think we're ever going to be a Gallo.
So from a listener's perspective, if they wanted to come here, what if you could just sum everything up into one thing? What is the number one thing you think is the best reason for somebody to come check out Perissos?
From my perspective, for the first time, and I would say over the last 5 years, Texas is becoming a real high-quality fine wine destination. And a trip to Perissos is going to give you a really beautiful example and interpretation of the overall Texas wine experience. You're going to get the location, you're going to get the vineyard, you're going to get the terroir. We're right in the middle of where we grow most of our grapes. That is not a claim that very many vineyards in the United States can make, wineries in the United States can make. We don't take ourselves seriously. We are Texans. We love Texas. We're proud Texans. And we want to welcome you to a wine experience that is unique and which defines the great state of Texas. And you'll find it at Perissos.
When you first walk up to the tasting room at Perissos, you'll feel like you've stepped into a scene in the old world with the beautiful location just nestled right there in the vines. The building itself is crafted beautifully, like I said earlier. The skills of the owner, Seth Martin, can easily be seen throughout that construction, especially the entryway and as you get inside. They have a large facility. They can accommodate many visitors and have private tasting rooms for different groups as well. The tastings are done, seated around tables, and the service staff will not only take good care of you, but they're going to help educate you about the wines you are tasting while you're there. I was really impressed by the Racker's blend that Greg spoke of in the interview, so much so that I had to buy a bottle of that just for my podcast library for this episode. But that didn't stop me from buying other bottles as well to share with others. Getting out into this area, whether it is to visit places like Inks Lake or just to see places in the hill country, is such a gorgeous location. You have to make plans to stop by and see this fantastic wine destination. So before you go, check out their website. It's www.perissosvineyards.com. That's PERISSOSVINEYARDS.com. There you're going to find information about their wines, all about their estate vineyard, tastings. You can make reservations there, the different events that they're having. And as always, don't forget, when you do go to see them, make sure to tell them you heard about them on this podcast, Texas Under Vine. So it is safe to say that Perissos exceeded abundantly in meeting my expectations for a great wine destination in Texas. But the time has come to venture forth to another wine destination in Texas so that I can tell you about even more fun places to visit. Now, again, if you're enjoying this show, would you please consider supporting me as a Patreon? Any effort you can offer really helps to offset my production costs, my travel, the hosting that I have for this, and all the expenses that I have. It really allows me to venture even further into other parts of Texas to explore wine destinations all over the state. I've kind of been centered in on my home area around the hill country, mainly because of costs right now, but I do want to travel all over Texas to different places, and you can help me get there. There are various tiers of support, starting at just a few dollars. You can also get access to behind-the-scenes materials like photo galleries, videos from the wine destinations that aren't available anywhere else, except to those Patreon subscribers. And if you're interested, please check out my website, texasundervine.com, and click on the Become a Patron link at the top of the page. And thank you so much for your support. I make no money from this venture, and of all the support means the world to me. Even if you don't find the podcast worth the money, please don't hesitate to contact me with any suggestions or to share your feelings about the podcast with me. Your feedback really helps me to improve what I'm doing here. And tell a friend, don't forget that. Well, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, follow my socials to be notified whenever the next episode is posted. Until next time, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly.
Don't forget to also check out the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app. If you want to plan a trip to the wine destination I talked about in this episode, the site for Texas Wine Lover and their phone app that you can download will really help you organize a trip so you can go see them. You can check out all of the goodness that I got to experience while I was there. But as you're planning your trip, while you're on their website or their app, you can also find out things like accommodations, restaurants, and even some fun events and things that are going on at the wineries, and maybe even find one that you want to experience as part of your wine trip that you never even expected. So check them out. Again, it's txwinelover.com.